Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Doppler's Gear Garage. Gosh darn it, I had thought I'd worked out all the gremlins and I did all this great prep work, and then all of a sudden I did a little audio test, and none of the backing track stuff that I set up passed through. So in any case, let me first of all say good morning, Albert. Hello, hello, hello. Always a pleasure. Gosh darn, hang on, move over there. There we go. White Eye 420. Do I know you yet? I don't recognize that Nick. What is your name? White Eye 420 and hello, hello, hello. Headstock Harem, what's going on there? Good morning, good morning, good morning. Shredder. All right. Well, first of all, my name is Doug, in case we haven't met, and this is Doppler's Gear Garage, and we're going to be talking about guitars and gear. Have I got a show for you? John with the white... Oh, John! Hey, got it! Are you in... Is that a bass? Wait a second. Are you in... That's a funny, small little bass right there. What is that? So are you in Florida now? So I know who you is. Okie dokie. Paul Richard, good morning. I hope you're feeling better, my friend. How's that ear coming along? You good? You good? All right. So we've got a great show for you today. The big bummer is I prepared this whole thing, and it's not going to come through. You know, the funny thing is it would come through. Oh, no, it literally won't even play through my monitors the way I've got things set up, quote-unquote set up. And it's this whole crazy thing that happened with the routing. But the main topic was going to be, and I'm going to make an adaptation of it, of learning to find rates for soloing and building your chops. That's the Guitar Hero controller. You are in Florida. Well, thanks for tuning in, my friend. Okay. One of the things I've been playing along with and having a whole bunch of fun playing along with is a song called Jane. And there's a guy named Dino that did a version with Mike Portnoy and Mad Tapping Dude, who also was out with TSO, was in Whitesnake. In any case, so I have imported that into Moises, and then it wasn't playing back, so I brought it into Pro Tools. I'm like, I'll outsmart this thing, and then that wasn't playing back. So in any case, the idea is having some sort of song that you play along with that you can kind of find your rhythmic subdivisions. And this is, whether you're a soloist, as a bass player, finding the rates that you can kind of get up to, and it's a piece of music that you're inspired by, you relate to on kind of, if you will, a soul level. Just the vibe of it makes you want to play. And then you can kind of dig in and start doing stuff. So I'd worked out a number of different things that we were going to kind of do with that. It is in the key of E Dorian. And really, the main teaching point around all of this is as follows. The ability to translate, and John, this is right up the stuff we've been talking about. The ability to translate, and Paul, you too as well, and everybody else, the ability to translate pitches into intervals, major second, minor second, major second, major second, major second, minor second, and major second, and being able to hear those and be able to translate that from string. But that's not just the intervallic, which is a huge help, but also knowing that's an E, and an F sharp, and a G, and an A, and a B, and a wait for it, a C sharp, and a D, and another E, and that's called the octave, right? And then as you start kind of putting intervals like thirds in between the notes, you begin to recognize a couple of other things. First of all, these are the 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, 1. Scale degree numbers of E Dorian. Again, that's E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D, E. And these sounds. If you can think of all of those things at the same time, or have them all available, it allows you to think of certain things. Like as I'm kind of playing this thing where I'm playing in intervals, I kind of had my big download for the day was most of us, if we start off playing the A minor pentatonic scale, we see that box, right? But if you could see that box and overlaid on top of that box, you saw 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1, and A, C, D, E, G, A. And all of those things were just sitting there in layers, so you could just jump from layer to layer as you needed to and recognize, oh, I need to think about that 1, flat 3, 5. What notes are that? Oh, that's A, C, and E. Got it. A, C, and E. And where that becomes valuable, hang out in A Dorian there for a minute, is that if you know that tonic triad, you can begin to find different ways of, rather than just being stuck in that box there, pentatonic purgatory, you can begin to go, okay, well, there's A, C, and E. 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 A, C, and E. And A, C, and E. And now all of a sudden, those same notes. You're no longer stuck again in pentatonic. You're not in the penalty box of pattern number 1 of the minor pentatonic. By the way, I do not call that position 1. This is first position. Anybody that has ever studied classical guitar, and there are many people who have done this, first position implies the placement of where your first finger is. If I were to play in third position, even if I extend my first finger out of position to the second fret, my understanding is, and I need to double check this bit, this is still first position because as there's 1, 2, 3, 4 relates, the, if you will, kind of natural relationship between the first and second finger there, that first finger is at the third fret, that's third position. I do not believe the extended first finger is, but if you had like, for example, let's play G major 3-note per string. I think that first finger is designed to be on the 4th fret, and I think this is still going to be called 4th position. I'll double check that on that first finger extended. But the point being is the pentatonic patterns are patterns. They're not positions because first position is down here. All right. So the point being, I got a couple of people to say hello to, first of all. Braden, what's going on, my man? Nicholas, hello. Hang on. I've missed a whole bunch of stuff. So hang on. So let me get caught up. Nicholas, do I still have my Sebago Sound DT? You bet I do. So for those of you that don't speak Dumble, there's a lovely amp that is in my upstairs studio from a lovely company called Sebago Sound. And they do these great Dumble clones. And so I did some video work for them, and they are great amps. And yes, Nicholas, first of all, welcome to the show. Hello. I am, if you take a look around, I'm not very good at departing gear. It's not one of my strengths. Arguably, it's a weakness for some, or for others, it is a strength. So we'll leave it there. Good morning. Hope that answers your question. Feel free to jump in and ask more questions. Chris, good morning, my friend. Always a pleasure. You deserve the applause. Okay, awesome. Braden, always a pleasure, my friend. Welcome. Griffin, great to see you. Thanks for jumping in on Instagram. I think I saw you. Brett, hello. Awesome. Pentatonic Purgatory or Locrian Limbo. All right, so before I take the Locrian bait, now I'm off and running. So the deal is, for most people, if you think about, and we're going to come back to all these other things in just a moment, these note names and all of this, because the number one thing, we're going to hit Locrian Limbo for just a moment. But before we do that, based on kind of all the work that I did around Jane and then had to bail on, because it won't flip and play back, which is so annoying I can't even put it into words. But the deal is being able to map the notes, and again, hearing the sound of that Dorian scale. Oh, sorry, not like, there we go. And one of the big things is being able to map that to your fingertips without having to look at the neck, because one of the important parts about the guitar is feeling that's a B right there, and that's a C sharp, and that's a C sharp bend to a D, and I guess this is going to be a D to a D sharp to an E, and that was D, E, G, E. So having that idea where you see, sorry, let me back up one step. So the note names, when you can identify where all the natural notes are, as in E, and I'm going to look at the neck because part of this is a visual part. So if you can see, hey, E, have to F, hold a G, hold a A, hold a B, have to C, hold a D, hold a E. And you know, the E major scale is E, hold a F sharp, hold a G sharp, have to A, hold a B, hold a C sharp, hold a D sharp, have to E. And the Dorian mode flats the 3 and it flats the 7. You end up with E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D, and E, which really means I'm really looking for F sharps and C sharps because I know where the natural notes of E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. Let me run through that one more time because that was super. So I've been doing this thing with my students. I hold up the fingers and this is important. If you can track where the natural notes are, E, have to F, hold a G, hold a A, hold a B, have to C, hold a D, hold a E. I would suggest doing this 2 ways. One, looking at the neck so you see visually where they're, if you will, stenciled on the neck. Super important to be able to do that. E, have to F, hold a G, hold a A, hold a B, have to C, hold a D, hold a E, E, hold a D, hold a C, have to B, hold a A, hold a G, hold a F, have to E. And in turn, E, have to F, hold a G, hold a A, hold a B, have to C, hold a D, hold a E, E, hold a D, hold a C, have to B, hold a A, hold a G, hold a F, have to E. And then E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, E, E, D sharp, C sharp, B, A, G sharp, F sharp, E is E major. And we're going to take that 3 and we're going to lower it to a flat 3. So the E, F sharp, G sharp becomes an E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, the D sharp becomes a D. So we end up with, instead of E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, E, we end up with E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D, E. The point being is now, again, backing up, we know where E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E are. Then we can go E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D, E by just modifying 2 notes. It does take, again, knowing where the natural notes are, knowing what the notes in the major scale are, modifying those, and then kind of querying between those 2 and just kind of going, well, now I'm just playing all the natural notes and I'm adding an F sharp and a C sharp. And then all of a sudden, this little bit of business becomes really easy because I'm aiming for E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D, E. Now, this is where the visual part of this becomes really valuable. And this is the big revelation I had for you this morning. I was like, you know what? When I'm playing the neck and I'm looking at what just used to be fret locations, right? Because we all know that from the minor pentatonic. Oh, I'm at the 5th fret, 8th fret, 5th, 7th, 5th, 7th, 5th, 7th, 5th, 8th, 5th, 8th. Even if we don't think of those as the numbers, we see where those little note locations are. Little note locations. I don't know if they're big, small, little. Depends, I guess, how long you hold the note. This is a long one. This is a short one. All right. So the idea is you then have this visual cue that once you know that this is E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D, E, you don't really have to think about it anymore because you know it, right? So it's kind of like driving home the first time. You're like, oh, do I go left here, right here? After the 10th time, you're like, I know the way. And that's the whole point of these kind of, if you will, modal pathways. So the idea of one of the main things that I wanted to get across, last week we talked about mapping notes of the G major scale up and down the high E string, because that just kind of gives you that up and down an octave and really allows you to coordinate the left and the right hand. The backing track was going to allow us today to talk about those sequences. And now what I've done is I've just taken that E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D, E, and mapped it down to B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B. And here's the beautiful part of it. Once you know the note names, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D, E, I'm just starting that same sequence from B. So I guess that's B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B. And then what I'm doing is I'm just starting off the second note of each of those strings available notes from E Dorian. So that's going to be the C sharp and the F sharp respectively. And again, if you know that there's C sharp and F sharp, you actually know which notes to play, which means you know which notes to play. And then you kind of have these little 6-note sequences. And then the idea is, oh, I have an announcement. So we play up and down. And then what we start doing is what I call nested sequences. And this is really where the magic happens. So that was up 3, down 3, up 4, and kind of down 2, if you will. Up 6, and down 6. So on and so forth. And the ability to map that up and down the neck is where you really develop your knowledge here, there. And, arguably in every solo, you're not just going to wheelie, cut and paste it. But what I refer to as the lawnmower effect means that we can begin to do stuff like where we kind of go up one pair, down the next, because we know that's C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G, and A. I guess that means that's going to be B, A, G, F sharp, E, D. And that's going to be E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp. And that's going to be D, C sharp, B, A, G, F sharp. I had to double check. I'm like G, A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, E, D, C sharp, B, A, and B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G. And then the octave where we started by going backwards, we got A, G, F sharp, E, D, C sharp. And when you're playing those, and you can look at the neck and you can see them stenciled on the neck, but you actually know that's B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, and this is E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D, E, and you can see the frets, kind of that pattern of this little bit of business here, and I almost played a wrong note there. And if you play a wrong note, it's actually good, because then you kind of go, oh, I know why that note is wrong. It's a really big deal. All right, let me just jump into the chat here and see if I've silenced everybody or there's feedback. Good morning, David Ritchie. Hello. I love that child. Look at you. Where are you? That looks like someplace in Latin America to me. Although you look rather bundled up. So let me know. Jerry, what's going on, my man? How are you? The frozen tundra of Chicago, drinking coffee from Israel. Oi, Tukis. And in case anybody doesn't know, Tukis is, well, it's a Tukis. By the way, Yiddish is one of the greatest languages on earth. It just has the ability. It's kind of like in English, you got words like, like the ones that buzz around. They're called flies, right? I mean, it's the perfect word. They fly around and they just annoy you. So Yiddish has some amazing words in it, like tukis. And by the way, you might have heard a slight analogy of that. Tush is absolutely right out of the Tukis. Well, not literally. It is the Tukis. In any case, all right. Good morning, my friend. All right, Chris. Cold and rainy, but all good. Awesome. Francesco, my friend. Always a pleasure. So hopefully sooner than later, you and I will get a chance to hang in person and hopefully play some guitar. I'm not quite sure I'm ready. I don't look at guitar as a competition, so it's not necessarily step in the ring. But I hope I will survive the guitar inspiration from your phenomenalness. So thanks for dropping in again. Really a pleasure. All right, let me just check in with everybody. Brad, good morning, my friend. Guten Morgen. There we go. Jason Valtos, hello, my friend. Sunny, hello. It's been rainy here. Sunny, that Digital Viper, what's happening? Gilberto, buenos dias, mi buen amigo. Hola. All right, so, first of all, sorry. Hang on a second. Let me get my scenes together. I got to get my scene together. It is time, first off, and Chris, I'm not going to forget your questions. Got to raise them up. So we've already know what is being drunk in Chicago. I am drinking pizza and my normal muscle milk, building those muscle chops. Let me know where it is that you're coming from, what it is you're drinking this morning. Chris, I already know you're drinking the sweet tea. All right. So getting back to this whole thing of these nested sequences, if you're wanting to play fast, the idea of again, not just taking one string, but of getting that going on these pairs. And just hanging out in each one of those spots. And if I had my flipping backing track, and then what you can start doing is kind of not playing all 6 notes. You start playing, and you go. So instead of going, play that at normal speed. Instead of going, we're going. So we're leaving out, if you will, the 3rd and 5th notes. And so when we talked about these nested sequence ideas, we're taking the 6-note sequence. And then what we're doing is we're nesting other sequences inside there. So we took this C sharp through A, if you will, and then the D through B, and the E through C sharp, and the F sharp through D, and the G through E, and the A through F sharp, and the B through D, and the C sharp through A, and then as there's note ranges. And then we're just leaving out certain notes. So this is basically, if you look at this range of notes from the C sharp to the A, and instead of thinking of C sharp as your kind of quote unquote root, even though it's not, in theory, we're kind of relative to what have been. That's what it would have been like. But without the track, what we're doing here, we're outlining that D from the 7, 1, 3, 5. And that's a D major 7. Then we got an E minor 7. F sharp minor 7. G major 7. A dominant 7. B minor 7. C sharp minor 7. Flat flat. Sorry. So the sequence is up, down, up, down, up, 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 down. As in up, down, up, down, up, up, down. And the advantage of being able to take the visual way that we kind of learn most of our guitar stuff and being able to go, okay, I can see where these boxes are fitting in over, well, it's going to be that box, I guess. Overall, this means that we can play by shapes, but we also know the notes that are driving those shapes. Let me say that again. If you know the notes that are driving the shapes, then the shapes are drawn because of your knowledge of the notes. And that is to say, if I can see B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, and E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D, E, and just recognize where those notes are stenciled onto the neck. And in turn, then you're just going, okay, I'm looking at this group of notes right there, and I'm picking this one, this one, this one, and this one. I'm looking at this group of notes right here. This one, this one, this one, and this one. This group of notes right here. This one, this one, this one, this one. this one, this one, this one, this one, this group of notes here, this one, this one, this one, and this one, so on and so forth. So we're learning to pick notes out of these larger sequences. And again, the concept is to quote unquote nest sequences inside others. And the concept, I think, initially came back in the day I coded HTML, and you would have what are called nested tables. You would have a table, and you would have an open. You basically open the table, and you'd have to close the table, and then you can nest other tables inside there. So the concept, if you kind of see this as the table, and then you start nesting other tables inside there. Now what I'm doing is that sequence I played before, and this is kind of one of my favorite sequences, that up, down, up, down, up, down. That is to say, I'm going up, down, and I'm doing that. There's a total of 4 sequences. The outlier is the third one, where sequence number 1, sequence number 2, sequence number 3 is just going ascending twice, and sequence number 4 is ascending and descending again, or up, down. And probably it's a really great idea. I love doing these things that I affectionately call foursies. The idea is each one of these spots, and the temptation is to start just cruising up and down the neck. However, if you can sit at each one of these spots, 2, 3, sped up a little bit there, but the point being is your fingers begin to go, oh, okay, I know what that feels like. And you have that familiarity with each of these spots. I can assure you, you'll get better familiarity if you hang out at each one of those for a minute than if you just kind of run up and down the neck. And ultimately what we're looking for on a tactile, because this is one of the things that I'm really doing with my students that I'm just loving, is I'm separating out, okay, what part of this is visual? Do we depend too much on the visual side of the guitar? And if we do, how do we fix that? Well, that means we start playing without looking. And in turn, if we, are not aware of the note names or the scale degree numbers, we just start off going, okay, let me just start mapping 1 string or 2 strings. And then you begin to get familiar with that process, and you just are used to thinking of the instrument that way. Same thing with the intervals, right? If you can begin to hear the sound of the way the notes are going to fall sequentially and anticipate it with your fingers without having to look, you're building one of the most important skills, that kinesthetic auditory sense of what's going on. All right, let me jump into the chat here real quick. Alliance Ohio bottled water, keeping it pure. Thanks, Doug. That would be great. I was only in the USA in 2015 at NAMM. Sometime sooner than later. Pleasure would be mine sooner than later. I am desperately trying to get back out on the road in 2026. And gosh darn it, Italy is one of the places that I would love to get back to. So hopefully sooner than later. So the pleasure would be mine. So awesome. Good. Brian Felix, good morning, my dear friend. What is my delay setting? Chris, my dear friend. So I am running a dual delay in the brand new Helix Stadium, and it is a dotted 1/8 on one side over there, and this guy's a corner note. And so they're kind of set to this, whatever the little tap tempo guy there's a, that's 120-ish maybe, but but what's neat is you get that stereo separation there. I just love that. The other thing is because it's hard panned left and right, and the amp model I'm using is in the center, you get this. The effects kind of cloak the main guitar signal. U. And there's a little bit of verb there, obviously. Hey, oh, what'd I do? Hold on. Stop. What happened here? All right, undo. Okay. I did something. Hello? Okay, I did undo. Have we had a crash? By the way, just for pisses and giggles, this is not an embarrassing moment for Line 6. It is slightly awkward for me, but the deal is they took a vote. Hey, people out there, do you want the new Helix Stadium first or before we get a chance to fine-tune all the stuff? I think we've just had a crash on this unit because I think I'm still passing audio into my... No, I can see I'm passing audio into my audio interface, but not from Stadium here. And... Okay. So I'm going to do a little restart on that. I'm going to mute the inputs there so I don't give you a little bit of noise in your ear. And while I'm doing this, we'll come back. I'm going to save you, though. Save you. Hold on a second. No, I'm not going to save you yet. I'm going to turn my delay and reverb back on. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to save you. Save. All right, now I'm going to reboot this thing. Come on. Where are you, baby? Come on. There we go. All right. In the meantime, back to our previous thing. Now, let me get back over to the right application. There we go. Oh, Albert, thank you. A man after my own heart, so to speak. Danny Douglas, what's going on, my friend? Good morning, good morning. Great to see you. Awesome black roasted pecan flavored coffee. Come on, bring it on. Okay, do I have any favorite clean amps in Helix? Yes, I do. I think the deluxe reverb in there, they've got a new quote-unquote Agora model. I think it's a great sounding model. I'm not normally a deluxe reverb fan. I have other amps that I prefer more than the deluxe reverb. In any case, but as of now, that is my favorite clean amp inside there. Great question. Kevin, what's going on, my man? You know, the funny thing is that, look at that photo. You mentioned something. First of all the people that have been hanging out here, thank you, and on these different social media posts that I'm kind of back being social again. Kevin, you made a comment that you've got the Mustang 100. For anybody that actually is familiar with those Mustang amps, I think my Mustang combo has made its way upstairs, but they are phenomenal. And I'm also a fan of the Catalyst amps, as Chris Alexander would tell you. But the Mustang little amps are flipping great. Hey, yeah, do me a favor, everybody. Thank you so much. Gosh darn it. This is social media. Let me know if you have a favorite clean amp, like, I don't know, a Mesa Boogie Lone Star. So, Albert, how many boogies do you have? You have a Mark II C Plus. You have a Lone Star. What in the world? We're back. All right. All right, back to our previously scheduled program. JCM1. Wait. Now, hang on a second. That's actually a funny joke because I'm looking at a JCM 120. That is when a Marshall JCM and a Roland JC 120 had a love child. What a great amp that would be. Oh, all right. So first of all, I am completely inspired. So I know he meant the Roland JC 120. I have a Roland JC 120 over there, and there's one actually in one of those road cases. It's the wrong case, but it's hiding in there. Roland Jazz Choruses are a great amp. Think Kaylee by Marillion. I don't know. Think Metallica. Think The Police, right? They are Purple Rain. Used in a million places. They have an iconic sound. They are great. But the funny thing is the JCM 800, JCM 120 is I can't speak this morning. So I had a buddy, Mike Mong, and actually the JC120 over there used to belong to him. And so he used to have this rig that was a combination of a Marshall and a JC120. It's the perfect combination of tones. All right, hang on. So let me jump back up here. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, good, good, good. Right? It is a great question. JCM 120. I loved it. Carvinson Legacy 3 is my favorite clean amp. Those are great amps. I have two of the threes and two of the twos. They are both phenomenal amplifiers, and they shockingly, they would go rolling. I love it. So what I'm going to do, inspired by you, is I'm going to create a Helix patch called the JCM 120, and it's going to be like this one. There we go. That probably is a little hot there. Hang on, let me check input here. Yeah, that is hot. And it looks like it's hot on one side. What's going on over here? Hold on, let me turn. Oh, that's why. You off. I need to tune here real quick after that abusing I've done. I was so going so well. Little Eric Johnson, right? I digress into clean land. In any case, nice to have my unit back. But basically, when I started off trying to demonstrate, I've mapped to two different snapshots here. Oh, I get it. I need to map this snapshot and turn that block off. You need to, come on, block, you off. There we go. Save you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. All right, there you go. So now when I'm here, when I switch over here, all right, now I can get back over here and get my level right. Back to snapshot 1. Thank you. Where did I bring the gain down? Did I bring it down over here? All right, I'll figure it out later. All right. Back to our previously scheduled program. So the idea is that's two different amps. One is the 2203 Brit 2203 MV, which is a JCM 800 master volume amp model, and that's one of the new Agora amp models. And the other thing was a pair of the new Essex 30TB Essex TB30cc. Hang on, let's see if I can get it right. Essex 30TB Essex TB30cc. Say that 10 times, flipping right. And that's basically their new AC30, but it's not modeled after any of the classic AC30s out there, the AC30, the CCs, the Custom Classic, they're not really like the most desired AC30s, but it's a great sounding AC30. So the point being is there's kind of two different amps in there. So to your point, Jason, I'm going to create the JCM 120 preset that on one half is going to have the JC 120 and the stereo chorus, and the other is going to have a JCM 800. I just love that. So thank you for that. Okay. Oh, there we go. Come on. Listing it. Oh, my word. Look at this. Lone Star Special. Stiletto. Mark 590, not to be confused with the Mark 525, which is also a great amp. I have one of those. Mark II C+, all hail the king, and the Badlander. But I'm gassing for two of those TCs. Come on, and who wouldn't be? Come on. Flat fingered that. No, you know what? That was one of the best mistakes we'll make today. So do I use earbuds when playing live for monitoring sound? Do I prefer a wedge or earbuds? And there are a couple of other questions I'm going to get to in just a moment. That is a brilliant question. So basically, I will go to any lengths to not put anything in my ears if I don't have to. So I'm going to be playing bass this Sunday morning, and I invariably am going to be wearing in-ears. And in that situation, you just kind of roll with it. You know, as I think about touring in 2026, all of my instrumental and hopefully the vocal band will maybe do some shows in 2026, maybe not. But for that stuff, as long as I can stay out of ears, which it's an inevitability that I think pretty much every major touring act eventually is going to switch over to using ears and not using wedges, monitors. But, you know, so for 2026, I'm hoping I can get away without doing it. However, let me also clarify that it's entirely possible that if I have the opportunity to get on a quote unquote larger tour, that is to say opening for somebody that everybody here would know their name, or somebody's that everybody here would know their names, which is the goal. That, you know, some of that stuff is going to be me and a feature that's coming to a stadium called Showcase. And it basically means I can load all the backing tracks from the album, the actual tracks, have this play it, and then it plays back it. And that's sort of a situation. It's probably going to be a point where I'm going to need and want to switch to in-ear monitors. However, it's also the sort of thing that, you know, you can also monitor off of wedges. That is to say, I'm getting closer to kind of being forced to make the plunge. And most people who make the plunge eventually seem to be very happy with it. But I like the old school thing of like, you know what? When I'm playing, I'm listening for how the guitar is responding to the speakers. I'm also listening to how the guitar is responding to itself by the sound in the room. And if I can't hear the way the sound is moving in the room, there are decisions that I can't make in terms of how I'm going to hit the strings that are directly tethered to the way the sound moves in the room because of how I play. So I'm going to miss that piece. It's actually one of the things that the next time I get a chance to sit down with Joe Satriani, I'm going to probably ask him, because he's now moved to basically wireless and in ears because of the Sammy gig. So I'll be very curious to kind of see, does he miss because he was one of the last ones to kind of come over. Petrucci's been on ears for a long time. Vi's on ears, so it's kind of everybody's gone there. It's where things are at. But the other thing is having the in-ears right poking in your ear. I don't know about you, but my tendency is the longer I'm listening to something that's in my ear, the more I have a tendency to want to turn things up. And to get that visceral, oh, it feels loud, I think the potential damage is bad. So that's a great question. So this patch, and I don't know if we're talking about the AC30. Dare me, huh? Fine. All right, let's see if... oh, my word. 3. No, that's not what I want. Oh, hang on. Give me a moment. Let's see if I can get connected here. There we go. Looking happy. All right. Let me jump over into the app here. You. Come on. That's what I'm looking for. First of all, everybody who's watching, hello. Gosh darn it. I'm Doug. If we haven't met, really, really, really nice to see you. And there we go. Okay. So you're now looking inside Helix Stadium Editor. And so basically, this is a signal chain here. I do not have this little groovy guy on. Well, I do now. And that is what's called a polycapo. And what's really groovy about that? I can play intervals. As well as single notes, but all right, sorry, I got carried away. I can see the chat. I have some folks I need to respond to in a minute. Okay, so that's going through basically the polycapo, which is a polyphonic pitch transposer. I've got that down an octave, and that flipping sounds great. I have Timmy. There's a Y split here, and basically the top signal chain is this Marshall amplifier there, Brit 2203MV, its associated cabinet. The stereo course is off for the moment. And I've got the dual delay. That's, again, dotted eighth on the right, quarter on the left. And then the reverb. And then this, when I kind of switch snapshots, it switches over to here, cruises down here. That's where I've got my compressor, my pair of JC120s on my brain, the AC30s, a stereo cab block, and then more delay and reverb separate for these kind of two separate signal chains. Right, let me jump back over here. There we go. Hey. I didn't blow anything up. Holy cow. All right. Let's take a quick look here. The clean. There we go. Good. Thanks for that. All right. So there we go. I'm not going to miss this. Hang on a second. All right. Good. Good. I got it. All right. Francesco, considering a small pedal board, what do I think about Tonix, Fractal, or a Nano Cortex? All right. What a great politically explosive question. Because I'm kind of friendly. I'm actually friendly in all those camps. It's a great question. It's an easy question to answer, in my opinion. If you're not absolutely can't live without quad cortex, you cannot go wrong. Are they here? Are they here? I've been busy kind of working on some other content around the Helix Stadium stuff, and so there are these, what were initially and will be again, these weekly rig videos, and it's basically amp racks and rigs. But kind of the Helix thing kind of took off, and I needed to kind of tend it there. So one of the rigs that I'm going to build is off of a pair of Tonix pedals, the Tonix ones, and also with the TX edition of the Air Step. Which is kind of over there. And so the ability to control at least one of those with the multifunctionality is going to be super, super, super awesome. And so more or less the way I think that rig is going to work is that one of the two Tonix pedals is just going to toggle between a clean model and a dirty model when you press the foot switch. The other one is going to be kind of, I can control a bunch of things, and that's what's going to be mapped with AirStep. As a pair of processors working together, if you will, and then having that additional foot switch functionality, flipping can't go wrong with that. And then although I've got the line 6 cabs behind me, upstairs I've got the Tonix cabs, 700 watts I think a piece. Not that you necessarily, chances are you're looking at kind of like, hey, I just need something that's plug and play into the PA. First of all of this stuff is phenomenal. all great. I lean less towards the quad cortex camp. I have the nano. I have quad cortex number 17. Um, so like, I'm a huge endorser and believer of all of this technology. I think all the people in the game are doing a great job. So the ability to kind of find the one that the tone speaks you to the most, kind of out of the box. For me, if you were to ask, which one do you really relate to the most, I'd have to say the Tonex sounds. I just kind of like, I'm just up and running kind of instantly. I'm like, oh, it's almost too easy to play, which is a funny thing to say, but sometimes having to work for it a little bit. The funny thing is, I think some of you saw that's this finger, not that one. The photo I posted. So I not only managed to peel all the outer layer of my callus off, but I also kind of ended up in the process, where the skin meets the cuticle there, that also tore away. So I've been kind of nursing this finger back to health. And one of the things that I've noticed is that the sounds that I have a tendency to dial up, I have a tendency to make myself work for it a little bit, and it keeps me on my toes. If it's a little too easy to play, I just have that feeling. So one of the other questions that's relating to that, and this is for everybody. So first of all, thank you for the question. Thank you for asking my input. Appreciate it. Every so often, I'll throw a compressor on a lead tone. I gotta tell you, it's kind of like butter on bread. You're like, oh, all the hard stuff, all that little extra noise you get when you're changing between strings. Any of that little extra kind of pick. The compressor has a tendency to grab what are called the transient, so it's the fastest thing that hits the compressor, and quite often it's the extra pick noise. So it becomes that much easier to make the transition between strings. So you lose a little bit of that. You keep the articulation, but somehow you lose a little bit of the noise. So it's really groovy. I think the thing about the Tonex sounds that I love is there's just a little bit of compression that's inside the chemistry of their stuff, and it sounds a little bit produced. That is to say, if you listen to your favorite albums and you heard the guitar actually out in the live room, and the difference between that and what you actually hear in the recording, there will have been a little bit of compression either happening directly as that thing was coming in via the microphones that's affecting the way the notes just kind of don't jump out too much, even if it's just gentle, as well as on the stereo bus, where by the time everything gets crammed into 2 tracks that you're going to listen to your earbuds, there will be some compression that happens there, and that will affect the way the guitar behaves. It's going to chop off some of the really bright things. It's going to tighten up when it wants to go. It'll tighten things up. That's one of the other reasons sometimes I'll use a compressor, is that if you've got some slightly tubby rhythm tone, but you really like the amount of bass, but you're like, oh man, the compressor will also grab what I like to refer to as the hips. Just bring them in a little bit. But the thing is it's like the Tonex. You're like, oh man, it's too easy. And I'm mindful again. I'm looking at 2026. I desperately. It's not like it's motivated out of desperation, but the emotional need to get back out and start playing live is something I think about pretty much all day long. So because of that, the idea of really making sure that I'm at the top of my game and making sure that there's nothing that I'm depending on, also knowing I'm going to potentially sit in with some folks, and you don't always have control of the situation. You might be playing through a dry Marshall that ain't got nothing, and you got to work for it. If you've gotten too used to the preset doing too much for you, and you sit in with somebody and the word flaccid comes to mind, because you're like, I can't make anything happen. Part of my goal is to work with any kind of a tone that doesn't have a lot of life to it, And I'm not going to say that this doesn't have a lot of life to it, but if I take all the good stuff off, as I say, we went to Thanksgiving, and we didn't have anything but the turkey, no sauce, nothing. Oh, it's the Standing X song. Hang on a second. So all you got is that. So I've taken off the drive here. So this was where my. That's off. So all it is. So if I can make it happen there, I have a problem. That's synonymous to just plugging into whatever any old Marshall is going to be there. So Francesco, I know you've had this experience happen. You're like, this amp ain't giving me nothing. There's a room full of people. I got to make something happen. So, most of us have the ability to kind of control what's going on, but there are times we walk into a situation we have no control over it. And that's where the kind of like, hey, learning to work for it and making that part of your active vocabulary is really important. Great question. Thank you for asking. Do we have dates for the tour? So as of this week, it's an interesting process being me, in that this has been a great week, but there have been a couple of little setbacks. So I am going to be hiring a different mix engineer for the album, and I'm famous for pre and over announcing things too fast. But the guy that I'm talking with has done a couple of things with Joe Satriani, AC/DC, Jimmy Page, and is at Aerosmith, and he is phenomenal. So we're kind of looking at when in 2026 we're going to mix the first 4 songs, 2 vocal, 2 instrumental. The song with Joe Satriani is going to be one of those. I have a team in South Africa, of all places, working on this great video for the song with Joe. That's taking a little bit of extra time, but it's going to be really fun. So all 4 of those songs are going to have videos. So the idea of taking a little bit of extra time is going to allow me to kind of get my act together on Instagram, where you're going to see me spending a lot more energy. So it all kind of works out as the way it's intended to. So I think it's probably fairly safe to say until I have any material out, nobody's going to want me to go out on the road with them. And the problem is I'm not going to have material out, so nobody's going to consider taking me out until I actually have some material out, and people kind of begin to look at the social numbers and look at all of that stuff and kind of go, okay, he's doing something, or it's crickets, which is right now my Instagram is crickets, so I got to fix that. So I am, hopefully. All right, great question. I can't wait. The Southeast is a great place to start. So, I can't wait. First of all, Texas is the greatest place in the world to play guitar. Everybody in Texas seems to love guitar. Gosh darn it. So dang it. Paul, thank you, actually. The difference for me was custom molds for IEMs, and great sound guy that gave me my own stereo mix. Incredible sound at reasonable volume. Noted. The reasonable volume. I like the back of my pick. Well, first of all, the front of my pick says DD 2023. I move at the speed of slow, at least have, but I've had to figure some stuff out. And then louder is better. So louder in the ears is the thing. All right, Llewellyn, what's going on, neighbor? How are you, my friend? For those of you that can't read that, I really appreciate your speaking to how your instrument. First of all, great to see you, my friend. Really speaking to how your instrument should respond to the room. Dude, it is everything. Because if you don't understand the venue you're playing in, you don't understand the venue you're playing in. It's kind of like driving your car too fast on an icy road. You're not going to end up with the result that you're looking for. All right, let me get the second part of this. Jonathan Moffat, hello, just made a post about how he creates a kit for each production, the adjustments he makes for each venue. And so, it's an interesting. So I'm going to go into a little bit of a story. First of all, anybody that is touring or thinking about doing this, oh, awesome. I see some new folks. By the way, all the new folks that are here, thank you so much for hanging out. Again, don't be bashful about asking questions. I'm obviously not bashful about answering them. And I am going to get Chris's questions in today. So uh, there are three venues that come to mind. When I opened for Michael Schenker on the first half a tour that ended up at a Denny's, the tour ended at a Denny's in Denver. That's not where a tour is supposed to end. The first one, and then the second one, we went all across the United States. Both of those tours, we played a venue called the Roseland Theater, which is in Portland, Oregon, and and some of you have heard me talk about it, but it's a square room with cement walls and basically like a wood floor like in a high school gymnasium. It's live, 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 live. And in a room like that, you got to pull your delays and your reverbs back for not only for sound check, but then also once it fills up with people, the room gets a lot less live. So you got to kind of know what's happening there and really understand the room. Conversely, there is the Baked Potato, and I've played there 3 or 4 times. And the last time I really finally, quote unquote, got it right. And so the first time I played there, you walk in, it has, if I clap, I'm not going to blow out the mic. You can hear a little bit of a reverberation, a little bit of an echo. The Baked Potato, that room is dead. It's like what do they call it? A isobaric chamber. Is that the right word? No, that's probably the wrong word. Iso something or other, but it's a chamber where there's no reflection. It's like that. So the second time I was like, oh, I'll just dial in a whole bunch more than I'll ever need. Reverb and delay. I've got this down. I walked in. The room just sucked up the delay and the reverb. So the third time I kind of got it right. I guess I played there 4 times. So the fourth time, which was with the Mark 7, and it was, I finally kind of had a pretty good idea. I walked in. I had the right amount of delay and reverb, and it really felt well in the space. But that is arguably the most important room in Los Angeles for people that play rooms of that size. Sucking at the Baked Potato is really not a good thing. You never know who's going to be there. You always want to have the opportunity to come back. I'm fortunate enough to have the privilege to be able to call up or email Justin, the guy that owns and books it, and be able to get back in there when I want to. And that's a huge privilege. It's one of the most esteemed venues in the world. Last time we were there, we headlined it. So it's a big deal to me. So being able to have great sound there and not sucking, it's a place where you definitely don't want to bring the suck factor. The other thing, the third one, kind of back on the big room, my buddy Bruce Adolph did the OC Vibe Guitar Festival. And I don't know if he's going to do that again, but he has a series of guitar festivals. And Larry Mitchell and I, and, oh, I can't remember his name. Well, first of all, Phil X, but Philip Sace. We were all on that, and so the kind of the main guitar festival things happening kind of in kind of an entry area to the stadium, and then down inside we were kind of inside, but it's basically a basketball arena, and I knew I needed to dial back my delays and the reverb, but the amazing thing is when I clapped, the room had the most amazing ambient reverb, and when you go cha and then mute the strings, it was like the heavens open. It was the greatest reverb I've ever heard. So the point being is not every venue is like that. The venue, what is that place called? No, unfortunately, as you get older, sometimes the names of things, I can remember the names of my 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade teachers, but the venue that I played at what is the name of that place? It was the most beautiful venue on the Schenker tour. We played there twice, actually, on the 1st and 2nd tours. And it was this beautiful looking venue, this Art Deco. But I got onto the stage, and it's the worst sounding room I've ever played. It's just absolutely terrible. Terrible sounding on stage, terrible sounding front of house. I was like, oh, this is a disaster. All that is to say, you got to be prepared to pivot in those venues. And yes, first of all, Randy Randall, sorry, it took me a minute to get to this. 69. Moment for Randy Rhodes. Thank you for what you did. I was in high school, kind of when Blizzard of Oz and all of that stuff was happening. And, it was a really great time in rock and roll. And Randy was such an important force in that. And it would have been really exciting to hear all the things that he would have done. In some senses, when you think about the tragic rock and roll deaths, the Hendrix, the Randy Rhodes, part of what makes that material so, and Stevie Ray, so on and so forth, and now Jeff Beck, why it's so close to the heart is that artist is never going to make any more music. And somehow, I think that creates a stronger emotional bond because we miss that artist so much. So in any case, happy birthday, Randy. I'd love to know which guitar Randy Rhoads would be playing in heaven. That's what I want to know. Gosh darn it! I've been thinking about. I was thinking about this yesterday. I was thinking about the white Les Paul. Like, I think of all the guitars of Randy's that I would like to play, because at this point, I've played some of the most famous Les Pauls in the world. So I'm kind of it's on my list of stuff. I want to play Randy Rhoads Les Paul. That's on the list. All right. I won't use in-eat monitors again. I had a situation that was required for that. The supposed pro engineer spiked my volume mid-song, and now I have permanent hearing damage. Ow. Never again. Yuck. I'm so sorry to hear that, my friend. Yuck. Pray that gets healed, my friend. Believing for that. Doing my initial boot up of my new stadium, it's going okay so far. First of all, I don't know if you're on the official, Line 6 kind of, or it's the Facebook user group, and I can never remember the name of this thing because it's slightly convoluted. The official, hold on, let me see if I can get the name. There we go. It is the Line 6 Helix Stadium Family User Group Official and Original. What the flippin' world is that? In any case, that group is a great place to hang out, and I spend a lot of time there answering people's questions as best I can, along with a bunch of other people. So if you got any questions, feel free to, first of all, ask them now. First boot froze, then noticed some bugs with the Wi-Fi connection process, but the update is going smooth now. Awesome. Great. Awesome. Well, first of all, nice to meet you. Thanks for hanging out, and welcome. Boot on. By the way, I ended up getting a Wi-Fi extender and bring it down into my studio so I could have a great connection, because this is not really close to the main router. I needed to have that. So there we have it. All right. Chris James, what's going on, my man? I have a question off topic. I love this. Distract me. And I'm not giving you a hard time. What are the numbers like 9644 when using IRs? I think hertz. It's a great question. I'm really glad you asked that. What it actually refers to is it is the 44.1 and 48 is the sample rate. And I think I'm going to get this right. So it is the number of times, and if I get this wrong, please forgive me. The short version of the possibly wrong answer I'm going to give you is as follows. CDs, it has to do with the resolution of the file and the quality of the file. And I think it is the number of times that particular sound was sampled per second, or number of, I have to look this up, but the point being is that 44.1 is the sample rate for CDs. 48 44.1 kilohertz, 44.1K is the sample rate for CDs. 48K is the rate that a lot of people liked to use for video back in the day. Then 88.2 is a higher resolution sample rate, as I understand, and I will have to do my final research, but the point being is that is obviously twice the amount of sampling that's going on. Now, with IRs, let me answer a couple of important things. Number one is that there is the 44.1, the 48, the 88.2, and the 96. I haven't seen any IRs at 196 yet, but I'm sure it'll be coming. So in turn, each one of the different processors that's out there that takes IRs generally likes to see one particular sample rate. And in turn, there are also different sample lengths. Some like to see shorter, some allow you to see longer. The ones that see shorter, generally, if you try and import a longer, and it's really funny, they sound, hold on. Oh, okay. I'm going to play you an IR. Here we go. This is the sound of an IR. I think that came through. It'll be coming through my mic. I'm going to play it again. What the hell? So that's actually a speaker cabinet IR. So the point being is you can have a longer IR, and some of the machines out there will just truncate it down. But generally speaking, the higher the sample rate, the higher the quality thought to be. But honestly, they all sound great, and most people will never, ever, 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 ever notice the difference. The important thing to keep in mind is whatever device that you're going to be bringing your IRs into, you bring the right sample rate of the IR that device wants. And all of them will list that in their owner's manual. It's a great question, and I am going to need to do a video on it. Chris, I apologize for not having a slightly more intelligent answer to that that's specific, but I can tell you that if you go in and Google it, the AI on Google has gotten shockingly good. And for the sake of time, I'm not going to do that right now, but I hope that's a help. Okay. Francesco, I hope that, thanks for the answer. I admire your capacity to use the Helix and more technology. Use the Helix and more technology amp or computer. Instead, I'm very lazy to upgrade my old preamp, and I'm afraid to waste my time with searching for sounds for weeks or more. I would love only to play and record a good sound. I feel you. Well, the great thing is you're a phenomenal player, so your sound is here. And actually, no matter who's watching this, you know, regardless of where you are, you know, even if you're just starting or, you know, you're a seasoned professional like Francesco, your sound is in your hands. It's not in the box. It's a really important thing to keep in mind. And it's kind of why, you know, again, this whole thing about the strip down. I could add all the fancy stuff, and it's, you know, sounds fancier. But if the sound, you can't make it happen here, especially when things are really stripped back, that's a different problem. So, you know, Francesco, the Tonex one, you're going to flip and love it. It just sounds great. It's great. It's great. It's great. It's great. And they're stupidly cheap. Crazy. Someone once told me the compressor is almost like tucking in a baby with a blanket. I'd say that's a great analogy. So the funny thing is you used some words there. So this concept of tucking something in is a phrase that a lot of people use around recording, where you're just kind of tucking something in. And when I talked about kind of bringing the hips in, you're just kind of like, you're making the part kind of tuck in to where it's supposed to be. And a compressor does that. Again, the danger of it is, you know, this sound has a little tiny bit of compression, but it's got... got enough, and there's a little bit of a gate. You could hear it chopping. There you go. It's going to make you work for your lunch. Especially with not... And, you know, when you depend on something like this for something like... And that little extra bit of sustain that you get when you're over here, and you take that away, that little... You got to do a little extra work to make that happen. But it's really good to know that when you take away some of the blanket, that you're going to have to do a little bit more heavy lifting with the left hand there. So really excellent. Compression. Hey, what's going on, Brett Van V? It also adds a sustain component. Absolutely. So this is the other thing. Let me not go too far down the rabbit trail, but when you play through a great tube amplifier and start turning it up, You bring up the power amp section, you get tube compression. And it's one of the things when you kind of you dig into the note. In fact, what's great about the modeling that's in Stadium, when I dig it, and this is just literally, it's just the amp and a cab lock. Because it's quote unquote component level modeling, it's doing the things that a tube amp would do. So when I hit things hard, you can hear the notes kind of sag a little bit. And they just kind of give way a little bit versus when you're playing. They just have a little bit more sag and give. It's that compression. It's lovely, but you got to be careful when you start adding it as an extra block or something, because you can start getting hooked on it really easily. Brett, what's going on, my friend? So to his point, great to see you. Look at that photo. It will add a bunch of sustain as well. Awesome, awesome, awesome. The benchmark between live and the record for me is the way the raspberries go. The raspberries go all the way. Sounds between the two. It never sounds the same way on stage as it does on record. And good afternoon. And we're in California here, so you must be on the East Coast, I'm going to presume. I should say good afternoon to you. Thank you, my friend. And, this is one of the interesting things is that, first of all, live shouldn't sound, well, there are a number of people using different levels of tracks, including for things like vocals. Live should sound like, I've put my foot in it. Here's the thing. Different people are going for different things. I think in a perfect world, your band plays the songs the way it plays the songs. And if you have a band that played the songs in the studio and you bring that same band into the live experience, that band can reinterpret that moment that you had in the studio, what I refer to as a long moment, and then you bring a new interpretation to that long moment live. And to whatever extent you can choose to stay true to the original recording, or you can kind of begin to kind of loosen things up a little bit. And every so often, this is one of the things, and this is an important thing. Oh, there we go. Come on. Many shows at the Roseland Theater. What's going on, William? Awesome, awesome. What a great venue. Oh, that's really groovy. What is that? It's a person. It's fire. What the heck is that? All right. So the Roseland Theater is a great venue. All right. Doppler on topic. Oh, there we go. Come on, JCM 800. Power. Okay. Sorry, Doppler focusing again. So the thing is that the band, first of all, one of the great things about working in an environment where you have a band that can stretch things out if they need to, or flex, if you will, as they need to the situation, is in the same way that as a guitar player or as a musician you respond to the room that you're playing in. The other thing that happens is the band responds to the environment. You want to play for that audience. And one of the things, especially opening for the Schenker tours, one of the things that I really learned was how to work a room. Every night I'm opening for Michael Schenker, one of the greatest legends in the world. Nobody knew who I was for the most part. So I have to walk into the room. Everybody loves to see, quote unquote, a great opening act. If you're lucky enough to have a quote unquote great opening act, it's always a great thing, because we've seen enough bad opening acts. We're like, what? Just stop already. And it's only the first song, right? You're like, oh, this is painful. But if I leave, I'm going to lose my spot of where I'm standing in the room. It's like, oh my word, yawn, But the point being is you learn how to kind of work the room, and you learn how to work somebody else's audience and win them, such that by the time you're in about your third or fourth song, everybody's like, oh, this is great. This is going to be cool. Or hopefully they're that way. So it's an art, but if you don't learn to read that audience in that room and understand how to speak to them, you're missing that thing. And a band has to have that same ability to do that, where they understand that's the vibe of the room. We're gonna respond to that, and you just kind of learn to have enough flexibility that you just don't go in and do the same show over and over, unless you're a band like Metallica, where they are just like they're there to be Metallica, and the audience is there because of how much they love Metallica. Is like, this is who we are, which is why they rehearse for hours before they go out and play their set. I'm just like, that's my kind of band. It's flipping amazing. All right, I digress. Good point. I just experienced this very thing. Picked up a JCM 800 on Monday. Way to go. And I'm not sure which of those versus kind of like the JCM 800 is going to make you work for your take home pay and for your lunch. It's not Andy. All right. You play at the wall there. Are you in the Pacific Northwest as well? Yeah, we're talking about the Roseland Theater. But the thing is that, once you kind of figure out the room, it's actually, when it fills up with people, it's a great sounding room. And every time I played there, first of all, the people are great, and it's really a lot of fun, and the vibe is great. Some rooms you have to work the room, and the other places you just walk out and people are like, they just want a show. Thank God. I love hearing all the behind the scenes challenges for musicians, especially the worst. I love you, Paul. You know that. It is truly eye opening. I was fortunate to be in the front row Metallica show facing Kirk Hammett's guitar tech, Mr. Crew, also known as Justin Crew. So much more respect for how hard they work and put on a live show. I think that came in before I started giving my nod to to Metallica. They're just phenomenal. And Kirk was fighting a cold and sore muscles between songs. Just wow, lucky you. Eric, what's going on? Hello, hello, hello. Burning up that guitar. Holy cow. And yes, the Metallica guys. I know Justin a little bit. I know Kirk a little bit. And just as a group of people that have worked and earned every ounce of the success that they've got, and continue to be good stewards of their fame, their fortune, and their love for their fans. They're second to none. All right. Saw that tour and saw it. Wait a second. Right. Gosh darn it. Your backing band backed out due to a Quiet Riot show in St. Louis, as they were the band. I think they. All right. Sorry. Your backing band backed out due to a Quiet Riot show in St. Louis, as they were the band. Think they missed a great show. All right. So first of all, right. Sorry. Every so often, because of all these guitar camps, the grids in which I meet people and have a chance to stay in touch with people, I forget. My apologies. That was at Pops. So Pops has an electricity problem. Are they still there? We're going to... Hey, Miguel, what's going on, my man? Great to see you. Am I going to see you at NAMM, my friend? Look at you shredding away there. And Artie, hey, what's going on? I'm going to get to your question in just a moment. Hang on a second. Yes, go deep with IRs. That is a needed rabbit trail. Okay, hang on. I'm going to catch up in just a second. Let me jump back here. So the Pops, which is in Sauget, it's technically Illinois, right? But it's on the St. Louis border. So there's a kind of a funny story. So Paul Richard, we got a story here for you. So before we get to the venue, we stop at a gas station. And you always know when the gas station has bulletproof glass, you're like, could be a little rough. So we get there. There's some venues that just have bad power, and it means that things are kind of coming up and down in levels, and you can tell when it's surging and when it's not. And that place had bad power. I was playing through a Modeler and a JC. I was playing through a Boss GT. No, I was touring with amps on that one. So I would have been playing through a Marshall JVM and I think two 212 cabinets from my buddy in Italy, Dragoon rather. Sorry. Um, and so when I powered up, all of a sudden things would get hot, and then you get cold, and you're like, oh, it was funky, and it was noisy. And after the show, the guys from Whitesnake kind of showed up and hung out, which is really cool. It was really awesome. Obviously, they were Shanker fans. They weren't there to see me. But Uriah, the bass player in the band at the time, was somebody I've played with a bunch over the years. But afterwards, and it was a great show. Everybody there was great, Jason. We kind of got in the van, packed everything up, and we're driving through. And it's like this in certain places across the country. You're driving through, and there's nobody on the street. But it's an uncomfortable nobody on the street because I quickly got the feeling. I have a feeling we're the only, how do I say this, Caucasian people driving through that neighborhood with thousands of dollars of guitar gear, little blonde wife next to me, merch girl. I was like, if this went bad, this could go really bad. And what had happened, there was a freeway closure between where the venue was and where we were going to get the hotel. So by the time we got to the hotel, we said, oh, yeah, we blah, blah, blah. And they kind of went, that's where you were. Oh, you're lucky. And that's all they said. And I was like, oh, yeah. It's just kind of one of those feelings when you get to a certain place and you're like, that little internal barometer goes, oh, I have a feeling this is a life-threatening situation. In any case, all right. So I'm not forgetting Chris's questions. All right, here we go. A great way to develop your own tone is by playing acoustic. It doesn't lie. It just gives it what is fed, and that's absolutely true. One of the things that I try and do is and on a good day I will spend some time playing through the instrument acoustically at the beginning of my day just to kind of get dialed in on the guitar. A lot of my practice time is done without the instrument plugged in. You really get a chance to know the sound what the guitar sounds like when you're going to plug it in, and you're kind of almost imagining, oh, what would that sound like plugged in, right? It's a great point. Miguel, no need to apologize. I'm always happy to see you. Artie, good afternoon. A little off the topic since I just merged in. Come on in. Do I still record music in analog, meaning on tape? It's a great question. I am purely digital at this point. One of the things that happened was we haven't actually re-released the whole album yet, but I took a Spotify course because I knew nothing about Spotify. And if you're going to jump back into the record business, the last record I put out was basically 20 years ago. I needed to understand what the lay of the land was. So one of the things that I did as an experiment, since that I wasn't experimenting on the new albums, was re-release the first album on Spotify because it had never been on there. One of the singles that got 18,000 mostly organic spins. I also learned a little bit about Spotify promotion and how you can drive spins from Facebook. It's part of the game for artists that are trying to emerge and don't have a record label behind them. But I had to have we had the original quarter-inch reels mastered to digital from the tape. And it was just one of those things where it actually went well. The reels were great after 20 years, but it was a danger that if it had been bad, I would have relied on other things. As it turns out, we had some DATs where certain things were also recorded. The DATs were a little spotty, so ironically, the digital version of stuff, but it still is a tape, so it's electronic data on tape. So I was just like, okay, but I don't use analog, and I don't foresee using analog again. First of all, tape's expensive. The more passes you do, it has a tendency to sound different. Not that that's necessarily the worst thing. I think, if you're super anal retentive, and that's the sound we had that day, and I wanted to sound just like that, that's what's great about digital. Digital doesn't lie. And the A to D, analog to digital conversion these days is so good that I don't trip on it. It's a great question, by the way. And if I had the option of recording stuff to 2-inch tape on a 24-track machine. And it was some producer engineer who was like, Doug, I think for the vibe you're going for, it's a little bit classic rock. I think we should go for it. I'd be like, let's do it. Because there's something that happens when you slam drums to a 24-track 2-inch tape, or I should say to 2-inch tape on a 24-track machine. You could use a 16-track machine. There's magic that happens in that compression that happens as you slam that stuff onto that tape. And there's a sound. And if I would work with somebody who's like, hey, let's do that, I would do it in a heartbeat. For the guitar, so much of what you hear these days gets done by some guitar player in their home studio. I'm going to rabbit trail a little bit, and then I'm going to get to Chris's questions. And driving around there is not a great idea at night, especially you're definitely not in Kansas City. That's the funniest thing anybody's going to say to me all day. All right. In any case, the idea of staying in the digital domain at this point, I'm pretty comfortable with it. It's a great question, though. And I really appreciate your asking that. So thanks for that. I miss my Triple Crown. Hello. Kevin, who are you? Besides B813. Any case, yes, the Triple Crowns are flipping great amps. I'm working on a... the rhythm parts for this one song. That are going to use those two for this track that Jared James Nichols plays on. That I'm really excited about. So that's kind of, I'm in the midst of all of that. You can see that I've got the 2 amps, and on top of them, I've got the Mesa Boogie Cab Clone IRs. Whenever I use an IR, by the way, anybody that's out there, 99% of the time, I've got, first of all, there is a ISO cabinet over there from the folks at Mojo Tone. It's got 2 of the Celestion Redbacks, and those are rated at 150 watts. But the frequency curve of those is very, very close. Kind of, if a Vintage 30 and a Classic Lead 80, also kind of known as the Black Shadow in Mesa Boogie, it's very, very similar. It's kind of got a frequency curve that's very close to those two merged together. So it means that that's going to give information back to the amplifier that's very, very similar to the most common speakers I'm going to use. So that way the amp is actually responding actively to an actual speaker, and there's data being passed back and forth. It's actually one of the things they've got right about Helix Stadium. They've got interaction between the speaker cabinet blocks and the amp blocks. It's a vital part of getting IRs to actually behave because of the information the amp is passing to the IR. Not that a reactive load box doesn't get you part of the way there, but by being able to use the actual load on an actual speaker cabinet, it makes it that much more realistic because the amp is behaving in a way that is interactive with the way the speaker is behaving. And as much as that technology is great, a speaker is a speaker. That's not a speaker. They're not pretending it for it to be. There we go. Yes, Pops. Awesome. What a pleasure. And I apologize for forgetting. I won't again. Okay. Awesome. I look forward to seeing you at NAMM, my friend. All right. Paul, love that tour story. Probably one of many. It was, the funny thing is when we got to the window at the hotel, they just kind of gave it, they gave us one of those looks, was what they did to say, right? Mark, what's going on, my man? Hello. I've been on the stream before. YouTube keeps changing my name on here. Dude, isn't that just nuts? I noticed that last week. They kind of were just doing stuff. Song Moinster, good morning. Well, thank you. You're too kind. I'm a legend in my own mind. All right, so Chris's questions, god darn it. My dear friend. Oh, hang on. I didn't give him the appropriate love that I need to give him. Where I didn't get a chance to organize my scenes like I should. There we go. The man himself. That photo. And yeah, it's that he's got the shirt on. Yeah, that he's holding the guitar. But it's the look on his face. That's just kind of like one of my favorite things, Jason, about this journey is that, I have, and I say this affection if I say collected friends. It's not like, I'm collecting people like baseball cards. It's not like that. But I have this collection of friends, and in that sense, that collected friends that have come into my life at very special moments. So Jason, thank you. Chris, thank you. It means everything because it takes the experience of being out making music and bringing your music to people into a personal one that continues to live on after that moment. It's one of the coolest things about one of the biggest things I love about touring, and it's a really, really big deal in my world. All right, Chris Alexander, questions of the day. All right, when playing or writing, how do I choose sevenths or other extended chords? All right, such a great question. So I went into this little... So I'm going to add a little bit of love sauce. Come on. You. So in the same way, I'll go... The elements inside a chord. Getting back to my earlier teaching point, if you know that we're in the key of, in this case, E minor, and I did kind of move from E minor, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, being able to map those notes on any string. I did move into E, Dorian for a little bit. That's kind of a classic thing that I love. And a little harmonic minor. So here's minor. Dorian. Actually, I should probably play the C sharp in the bass. Harmonic minor. That's gonna... So I'm kind of playing melodies around chords. And if you think about the bass note, made this analogy, Chris, when I see you later today, the deal is that if you think about music, and this is going to be, I'm going to do this here as well. This is really important. Mindset. If you take a look at all the harmonic things that are happening and most of the rhythmic things around the music that you play, and you make the analogy that the left hand is the bass note movement of the root of the chord, or let's see, if I played an E major or an E major and first inversion, that is saying the E major's notes are E, G sharp, and B. So I can play it with E in the bass, but if I play it with the G sharp in the bass, the left hand of the piano, the most important thing it's doing is outlining those bass notes or the first inversion, the three, if you will, of your major, minor, diminished chords. The right hand is primarily playing around. If we were in E major, we would have... Sorry? I was thinking a couple of things in the background. I was going E major, F sharp minor, G sharp minor, A major, B major, C sharp minor, D sharp diminished, and E major if I can play it at the right spot. So those are the diatonic triad chords. How I'm going to play the diminished. Come on, I can do this. Make sure I get the sixth chord as a sixth chord. So the deal is that the right hand, in the same way I went, those chords traveled with the bass note. Generally speaking, the notes you're going to be playing with the right hand are the chord tones with some other so there I'm playing basically the 1, 2, 3, 4 chord. That's going to be a major chord. I'm going to play that A, the bass note of that. So what we're playing when we're there, that right hand has moved in relationship to what the left hand is doing. And generally the main things that we're thinking about are the 1, 3, and 5. So if I want to add the 7, that is where I add it, just the same way I'm using these notes to add flavor around that triad. But the main part of the story is really this. And we're adding other information. Again, my favorite example. Oh, sorry. So the main meat, there's 1, 3, 5, and he's just adding the 4. There's the 3 of that 4 chord. That is, say we're in the key of B major. There's your 1 chord, 4 chord, and 5 chord. Just in the same way we went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. We're now in B. There's my 1, 4, and my 5. My B major, my E major, and my F sharp major. So when we're playing over the B major chord, the B, D sharp, and F sharp are the chord tones. And then when it goes to that G there, that's creating tension. So we don't hang out there. So basically it's going 1, 3, 4, 5. And we go to the E chord, that's going to be an E, G sharp, and a B. G sharp, F sharp, E. And when we go to the F sharp chord, that's an F sharp A and F sharp A sharp and C sharp. You should know that. And then it's going to go, basically that is a D sharp, E, F sharp. So tension, tension, resolution. So the point being is that relationship of the left hand is defining the bass note or the 3 of the chord, and the right hand is playing around the chord tones and then adding additional flavor. That is what I'm thinking when I decide I want to add. And in turn, the interplay, if I just go, much moodier. So the idea is 7 chords. Got the gate kicking in. Hang on. My nails are just a little bit long, so I apologize for the intonation there. But that's G major 7, A minor 7, B minor 7, C major 7, T dominant 7, E minor 7, F sharp minor 7, flat 5, and G major 7. So those other notes are creating some tension inside the chord, but when you stack those notes together and you add, it's really interesting, but I add the 3, all of a sudden this got softened by, and collectively you don't mind that anymore, and the 5 doesn't have to be there. So it's a really interesting, so the idea is, no. I can't find the chord that I was hearing. Wasn't that? Oh well. I guess I was it. And that chord right there, that's an E minor 7, 1, 5, flat 7, flat 3. Because to me, it's just a regular E minor chord. It's just a little bit more drama. So again, it's a funny thing. I've never done that where here I'm playing the 1 and the flat 7. That's nothing pleasant. But when I add the flat 3 to that, the tension that's in there gets balanced out by the natural 3 there. And that's why that chord, I love it so much. It's interesting. I never really thought about that. So in any case, Chris, this is just great stuff. All right. I got a lesson that starts in 5 minutes. So how do you maintain clear and articulate notes when playing pull-offs or legato? Great question. So we're going to close with this little bit. So I can just have a hot second between now and 11 o'clock Pacific. So for those of you that are hanging out in the pentatonic, and we're kind enough to hang out this long in the stream, or just jumped in either way, one of the great things that I'm going to be adding, and it's great because I know what it's doing for my own playing, and it's going to be great for people, is literally sitting and so for a lot of people, the problem isn't just legato itself. It's like is really owning each string. So I had the low E string starting to rumble there, and I was thinking about getting that note to stop ringing, and what I'm doing about this particular guy that's hard is I'm using what I refer to as a non-waterfall motion. That is to say it's going and I've got to do this finger roll from the last note of that one to this one right there, which means when I go it's going from here, these pinkies are leading and I will use a subdivision method to practice that transition. I'll just target and isolate that. So that is to say, you have each individual string, then you got the transitions, and then you have sequences. That you'll drop in there. So on and so forth. So those are some of the things that I do to really kind of build that muscle, if you will. It's a great question, Chris. And I will be happy to go over that in greater detail with you when I see you a little bit later. All right. Okay. John, what's going on, my man? Did you ever sell that Les Paul? That's what I want to know. And there's the other Les Paul. That's the GIT guitar. Mike, great to see you. Hello, my friend. Mark, I have my first silent stage show under my belt. Yes, wireless to my Axe FX3, to the PA, and to my IAMs. It was different, but not bad. Congratulations, Rockstar. You got the tone, my man. How is the Strat thing coming along? All right. Awesome, awesome. With pleasure. Thank you, Brett. Great to see you. Thanks so much. I've missed you. I know you were kind of away for a couple of weeks. I was like, I miss Brett. When's he coming back? You've been missed, my friend. So it's nice to see you back in the fold. No pressure. Life is busy and Saturdays happen. But in any case, welcome back, my friend. Brett, thank you so much. With great pleasure. The pleasure is mine. We got a chance to hang out. What else am I going to do? Like, practice? Yeah, but this is so much more fun. So thanks for that. Chris, I love you like a brother. I'll see you in a few hours. Everybody have an amazing Saturday. And thank you for making your world and my world coincide. I'll see you next time. Thanks again. Cheers for now.